All right, short progress report today. I just wanted to let you guys know that my first novella, the one that I wrote in 2013 when I was like at risk of failing out of not failing out, but like I had a weird time in grad school. Basically, it was like a bunch of deadlines snuck up on me and my advisor, and like we didn't really know exactly how to deal with it. And also my experiment was not going very well. And so there was this period of time where it was like, am I actually going to graduate? Am I going to get my PhD or not? And so back in 2013, I kind of was like, well, I don't know, I needed something else to do to take my mind off of that kind of nonsense. And so that was the first time I decided to actually sit down and write some stuff. And the one thing that I wrote that I published back then was my first novella. It's called The Hyacinth Rescue, and it's the first story in my Derelict project series. It's basically about well, so the idea was to kind of have like a moderately hard science fiction setting, and do some fun kind of adventure stories. And so the first one I came up with was basically, the main character is Eric Misevelin. He runs Misevelin Salvage. He gets a knock on the door of his office one day, and there's this kid there. And the kid's like, "I need you to help save my dad. My dad is missing." And he's like, well, first off, I don't even know you are who you say you are. I don't know who you are to begin with, and I don't know that we can find someone on such short notice. And the kid is actually the son of a big of a corporate big shot, basically. And so he, through some interesting means, convinces them to take the job, and go find his father's ship, which was due in somewhere a while back, but has been missing for tens of hours, kind of thing. And so, off they go. And what unfolds is a kind of an interesting story where it's a pretty straightforward rescue story. Go out, get on the trail, find some clues, figure out where you're going. But what I really like is what I did at the end with the conclusion of the story, because what basically ended up happening is that you someone died on the ship, and it's not clear. It looks like foul play, but it's not clear. And so there's this tension between the ship's crew and Miss Evelyn Salvage's people, of trying to kind of use the original crew a little bit, but not to give them too much leeway, right? Because if someone sabotaged the original ship, they might sabotage the other ship, or the rescue ship as well, kind of thing. And there's this thing that I do thing that I did at the end that I really enjoyed, which was basically at the end, after the job is done and everything's all cleaned up, and everybody's back home safe, so to speak. Um, Lou is the engineer that works for Miss Evelyn Salvage, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I had this thing figured out, but I didn't say anything because I didn't have any evidence." And one of the things I thought was interesting about that was that, well, like I was trying to create a world where there wasn't this overarching, kind of powerful like authority that kind of ran all of space, kind of thing. And so one of the things that I wanted to show off was how the perspective that people have or have developed because of that is a little different from what you and I would probably would find appropriate today. Not appropriate is maybe a strong word, but would find normal today. So yeah, I wrote that story back in 2013. I was on a poor, very small graduate student stipend at the time, and so I didn't have money to get a cover or anything. So I just kind of hand drew a pencil thing and left that on there for a long time. But since I'm finishing up the novel, I think I want to, I thought to myself, hey, I want to get this thing in a presentable position, or presentable condition for people to pick up and maybe want to read it. So I actually went and got a new cover for it, wrote a new foreword for the second edition, and I left the story the same though. I like the story the way it was, but I put my crappy pencil drawing at the back matter instead of the front matter. So yeah, I think that story is still really fun. Um, it is what I might do one of these days is I might read a short that I wrote in the same universe. That's over on my blog, but yeah, it's a fun story. It's short. It's a novella of like 25,000 words, something like that. It's half a novel, half a short novel, and the purpose behind it is to kind of get in, show some characters, show some action, show how they kind of react to the world around them, to kind of set the stage, kind of thing. And I really enjoy the way that story came out. So yeah, it's got the new edition up now. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to take a look at it. There's of course samples available and stuff, but yeah, I'm actually starting to play around with like series on Amazon to see if I can like put things together in reasonable ways. And like one of the things I noticed is that it's really hard to like get detailed help of like. So when I was growing up, right? If you had a computer, if you had some software for that software came with a big honkin' paper manual of 200-300 pages that explained in painful detail all of the operation of that software. And nowadays, nobody seems to write documentation in a way that is helpful. I spent a hell of a long time trying to figure out whether I needed to do, for the second edition, to do a new book or simply to put in the the electronic manuscript for the original and basically overwrite it with the new edition. And like I kept getting like contradictory statements from Amazon's automated help system. And of course, you can never talk to a real person unless you're selling millions of dollars worth of books, probably. But I don't know. It was just a pain. What I ended up doing is I ended up overwriting the electronic version, because I think even if you have the electronic version, you get new versions automatically, and old versions are still available? Question mark. I don't know. I think that because there was some text about like, oh, if you need to do another edition of a book, you need to do a separate book. But I think that's just for like paperbacks and hardcovers. It's not for electronic books. So I don't know. Hopefully I didn't break any rules by doing it the way that I did it. But anyway, that book is now up. It's now on my author page too. And it's now properly in a series with the other novella in that series that I published over there as well. So yeah, it's a fun story. And it's just one of those things where I kind of felt like it would be worth talking about kind of the trials and tribulations of putting that thing together in a new edition at some, which for the purposes of making it something that I felt comfortable putting up on an author page, because the old cover was something that I drew in pencil on a sketchbook page in like 2 hours, and it was not particularly good. Although the thing about it that I liked was that it showed, I have kind of this unique idea of how starships are built in the world. So let me just describe it in words. Generally speaking, you have your metallic hull, and you have but like generally you don't want that metallic hull to be exposed to, say, micrometeoroids too easily. You want something over the top of that. And so what people developed in this world is they kind of came up with this method for creating like kind of a conical, not quite conical, but kind of like a squished conical, like ceramic coating that would go over the ship, and it would both make it smoother, so that it didn't like. So if it was involved in some kind of situation with atmosphere or gas, that it could at least hypothetically kind of glide through that kind of thing a little bit. But it also provides protection and insulation, because if you're traveling through empty space, you don't want necessarily to tell everybody around you that you're there, and so you create these kind of matte coated ceramic coatings that make you look just like a rock, basically, from a distance. The problem, of course, is that you have to service the outside of a starship, right? And so the thing that I came up with is, so you have your airlock somewhere on the side of the starship, and there's a slot cut into the ceramic for that. But in order to get around the ship, what people did is they would epoxy, metallic walkways over the ceramic in various places, covering a couple percent of the surface with like a matte surface metal. But then they epoxy that to the ceramic so that you can walk around on the surface of the ship with metal boots, or not metal boots, but like magnetic boots. And I don't know, I haven't seen that design in science fiction before, and so that was kind of my small contribution to ideas of how starships might look in the future. And I tried to draw that as well as I could in pencil, and I am by no means a good drawing artist. I'm no good at that at all. But that was kind of what I was trying to do. And so if you look at the pencil drawing that's now in the back matter, you'll be able to see kind of what my concept was for how a ship might look with this ceramic, conical ceramic coating, the metallic walkways, and like the slots and holes cut for various sensor apparatus. There's articulated thrusters at the back, kind of thing. I don't know. It's one of those things where I wrote down a bunch of characteristics and then tried to draw it, but since I'm very bad at drawing, it just ended up looking crappy. I used that for the cover for the longest time because I was cheap as hell. But now that I kind of understand how covers work, number one, you can do, I do a lot of royalty-free images, and number two, you can always buy a cover, and I found a pretty decent one from a cover sales website that worked out pretty well, so I used that instead. But anyway, that is up. It is recent. It is, fun. It is short, and it is something that I still smiled a lot when I reread it just recently to go over it. But that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you like what the channel's doing, you know what to do. And otherwise, I will see you tomorrow with something new. Have a good one.